questions over the homework? Questions over any of the homework assignments? So we were working on factoring by grouping was the last thing we were looking at. The last thing we were covering before the end of the day yesterday, or in the class period yesterday. I don't think we started on this one, or if we did, no, we didn't get to this one yet. Okay. Okay, right. So we can look at this one here. We'll start here. So, yeah. Okay. That's right. So, factoring by grouping is a method for factoring that works, especially if we have an even group of terms. We can group them evenly. So we can do this with 4 terms. So like this one here, 12n cubed plus 4n squared plus 3n plus 1. We can do it with 6 terms, because we can group it to 2 groups of 3. We can do it with 8, either 2 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 2, as long as we can break it up into nice amounts and get things be the same. And the way that we group it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't make a difference in how we do it. Because I can group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms. So we can group these together. Find greatest common factor, get those to be the same, factor it out again. There's nothing saying that I can't factor or do it with these 2 and these 2 or mix it around. But it starts getting harder some of the times to see those greatest common factors. And it's nice doing the first 2, last 2. Because if we look at the first 2, especially written in standard form, 12n cubed plus 4n squared, we know for certain there has to be an n squared in both. Because if I factor n squared out of n cubed, we get n. And if I factor the n squared out of n squared, we get 1. I'm not going to necessarily write 1 at this point because we still have the numbers. Because if the 12 doesn't reduce fully, we're just going to have 1 written there kind of hanging out that we'll erase eventually. Now 12 and 4. We're looking for the greatest common factor between 12 and 4. It's actually 4. No, you're good? No. Because it is going to be 4. Because 12 divided by 4 gives us 3. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 4n squared, when we factor it out of 12n cubed, 12 divided by 4 is 3. N cubed divided by n squared is n, giving us 3n. 4n squared, when we factor 4n squared out, we factor everything out. It reduces completely, telling us it is 1. Yes? Telling us that what's inside the parenthesis, our term that we want it to be the same, needs to be 3n plus 1. Yes? Well, wait, what is the other expression? It's already the same thing, yes? So I could, quote unquote, factor something out. But what I would be factoring out is just 1. I don't need to factor anything out to get them to be the same. They already are. Questions on this here? So after we do that, what's in common now with both terms? 3n plus 1n. 3n plus 1. So we can factor it out of both terms. And if we divide the 3n plus 1 out of this first expression, what we're left with is 4n squared. And we factor it out of the second, well, it factors out completely, so it's going to reduce to 1. Telling us it's 3n plus 1 times 4n squared plus 1. Questions on this here? Questions on any of this so far? Three n plus 1, no greatest common factor, degree is 1, that's as simplified as it gets. 4n squared plus 1, no greatest common factor between 4 and 1, n squared. And we don't have a sum of perfect squares, because that's actually as far as it goes. We cannot factor it any further. Questions on this here? $224AZ plus 56AC minus 84YZ minus 21YC. We can agree those are some pretty big numbers. Trying to find greatest common factor might be a little bit challenging, yes? So we could start with our factors. So with 56, I could try different factors of 56. 224, we can start with 2 and just increasing from there, yes? Now, I pulled up the graphing calculator for a reason, and as we've seen up to this point, the graphing calculator can do a lot of cool things, yes? I'm going to hit math, and I'm going to go over one. Number. So the list here, the number of the options that we have for this, the first one, ABS, is absolute value. The graphing calculator will actually do absolute values. So we can do absolute value equations. We can actually evaluate absolute values. We can do stuff with that there. Round, if we put a number in there with a decimal, it would round it. If we put an expression for I part, it'll tell us the imaginary part. F part into min, max, LCM, GCD, greatest common denominator, which is just what is the biggest denominator factor, greatest common factor. So the calculator will actually find greatest common factor if we want it to. Because I could look at 224 and 56. And this is interesting. It's kind of nice, 224, comma, 56. And I can actually tell it, what is the greatest common factor between 224 and 56? Lo and behold, it actually is 56. It's kind of a neat thing that we can use this here. So what that tells us is that the greatest common factor between 224 and 56 is, well, 56. What else is in common with these two terms? Okay. $224 divided by 56 is 4. The A factors out, leaving me with Z. Plus 56 divided by 56 is 1. A divided by A is 1, so both of those factor out completely, leaving me with C. So 56A times 4Z plus C is what this is going to factor to once we get that greatest common factor out. All right, guys, focusing. We good with this here so far? Yes? Now we know, because we're able to factor this here should be what? Should be the same. It should factor to 4C plus C, yes? So I need to find a number and term to factor out of negative 84YC minus 21YC to get 4Z plus C, yes? Well, 21, because especially with the second one, I'm trying to go from 21 to 1, yes? So it should be 21, and we should also have what? Y. Now, up to this point, we've put plus. We've just been positive, yes? But is there an issue with our signs for those second two? Because both of them are negative, yes? But what we need inside the parentheses is positive, yes? So what could I factor out of negative 84YZ and negative 21YC to make them positive? We just need to factor out a negative, yes? Because if I divide negative 84 by negative 21, negative 84 divided by negative 21, we factor it out, we get positive 4. Negative 21, if we factor negative 21 out, we factor that negative out with it. It's going to turn it from negative to positive. So when I was talking yesterday about the fact that there's sometimes a sign issue, this is what I'm talking about. And it sometimes shows up that the first term in those two, it'd be 84yz in this case, is negative and the second's positive. But in the factor, we need that first one to be positive and the second one to be negative. So sometimes we have to take that negative out to fix the sign, to get the signs to match up properly. But now that we've done this, well, what's inside the parentheses are the same. So we can factor 4z plus c out. And what that leaves us with for the first term is 56a. And for our second term, minus 21y. And we can call this the final answer as long as nothing reduces. 4z plus c, degree is still 1, even though we have two different variables. Different variables to determine degree. We add the exponents of multiple terms added together. But because both of the exponents attached to z and c are both 1, only show up once, the degree is still 1. 56a minus 21y, again, same reasoning, degree is 1, but we need to make sure 56 and 21 do not have any common factors. If they do, we'll have to factor it out. Now we could use the graphing calculator and see if it'll tell us if there is any. The other way I would check it is I know 21 factors, things that we can divide 21 by is 1, 3, 7, and 21. So I just take 56 and see if we can divide it by 21. No. 56 divided by 7, 8. So this is, again, it is factored, but we would not consider it to be completely factored. We have to factor a 7 out. We have to remove a 7 from both of those terms. Now the 4z plus c would still be there. But we have to pull this factor of 7, this greatest common factor of 7, out. We always put it in front just to keep track of it. I would not put it between the two parentheses. It just makes things look funky and look weird how it's written. 56, as we saw, divided by 7 is going to be 8a. Minus 21 divided by 7 is going to be 3, and we have y. Now we can check it again and make sure, but no, 8 and 3 do not have any other common factors. We're done. And yes, that also does mean that the starting problem did have the greatest common factor of 7, which we could have factored out and made this a lot easier to work with. But even though we didn't notice it, it still was factored. Questions on this here? Questions on anything we've done so far? So that does cover all the types of factoring that we're going to do. So this really wraps up factoring before our next chapter. Now, I do this as, I would say, being nice in a sense. You might not think it that way, but it kind of is in a way to kind of make it a little bit nicer on your grades. We're going to take a test over this factoring, which doesn't seem like a nicety, but it kind of is because, again, we're discovering factoring, all the stuff we've done this week. So it's a nice 200 points, should be a nice grade, especially as we go further on. Some of the chapters are going to be a little more hard, or can be more challenging, depending on what it is. But this should be a nice grade to get started of the year, because unlike last semester, we don't have the nice syllabus grade, that 50-point grade helping y'all out. So We're going to test next week. So Monday is no school, built-in snow day. Tuesday is going to be a makeup day / review day. I'm going to give the review sheet. You can work on it, factoring, making sure, especially we're familiar with the steps, sum and difference of two cubes, factoring by grouping, doing these here. And with these here, I would highly emphasize making sure to practice and have it written down. Because unfortunately, unlike most other tests, when we factor, you just write down what I have here without any notes. It's not going to be much help. Because for the most part, and then this is about all you're going to have to look back on. If you don't have anything else beyond this, notes to yourself. I would put questions that we do or you're asking yourself or as you're working through it as reminders. What are we doing next? What are we looking for? Those kind of questions are the questions I pose as we're solving them that you find helpful. I would write those in on the review sheet. Because honestly, just trying to look back this and remember probably is not going to be much help because it just looks like there's no organization of what the flow was. Makes sense? So make sure to work on the review sheet. Have that ready. Work on just things like that. There is one last worksheet, so there's 3 assignments connected with the set. Three, 4. If you have not finished or done the comments on the videos from last week, make sure to do those, submit those on Google Classroom. But other than that, that's all we're going to have before the chapter test over factoring.